I get it. You've got a job, kids who never sleep, a calendar that looks like your boss is having some fucked up game of Tetris with it, but you still want to run a sub-3. Now, most advice out there assumes that you have got endless time, no responsibilities, you are some 25-year-old sub-elite male athlete, and for most of us, that just doesn't work. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly the structure that I use with time-poor mums and dads who want to run sub-3. The real stuff that I have used on Steve, who is 48 years of age, and in fact, he's 49 now, and he is not only a sub-3 marathoner, but he's going to be going for sub-255 in Manchester in 2026 at 49 years of age. And he's doing that on real-world hours, real-world sleep, real-world life stresses. Let's get into it. If you are new here, my name is Nick. I am the founder of Maximum Mileage Coaching. I'm a sub-3 marathoner myself. I've run a few ultras. I've podiumed at a few ultras. And most of the athletes that I work with are exactly like me and you. They've got kids, mortgages, careers. They are not aspiring Olympians that live in a training camp in Flagstaff, Arizona. They've got real shit going on. I'm also a former global talent development manager, head of learning. So I have lived the long hours, the late night emails, having to deal with Zoom calls in the evenings and trying to squeeze in those sessions around real life. Whilst I'm a coach now, I have been there in the real world, in the corporate world, doing this sort of stuff. And this whole channel is about helping grown-ups get fast, get strong, and run long running. Right. If you try and do it that way round, let's start with the one thing that nobody tells time-poor parents about running a sub-3. Our constraints are actually our superpower. And hear me out. So the killer insight is that being time-poor can actually be an advantage because it forces you to stop doing shit training that just doesn't really matter. It means that you force yourself to find the right amount of time in your day and only train what matters. Most runners will think that chasing these, quite frankly, arbitrary numbers of, this magical 100-mile week. I've got to do a 100-mile week to run a sub-3. For people like us, the magic is not in the amount of miles you do. It's about in the consistency. I know that's freaking boring, but it is in that consistency and doing that minimum effective dose of the right stuff week after week on 6 to 8 hours of training time. That seems to be a really good spot for a lot of people that I work with, is around about that 6 to 8, maybe up to 10 hours of training in those peak weeks. So this video is not going to be telling you how to find loads of time in your diary to do 100-mile weeks and copying elite level volume. It's about building a ruthless, grown-up structure around these 3 pillars. In this number 1 foundational phase, easy running to build the engine, enough volume. Number 2 is specific quality sessions that are going to not just target that sub-3 pace, but build you into that sub-3 pace so that you can actually run it comfortably on race day. And we're going to talk about number 3, which is strength and recovery to keep you durable. Big thing I talk about a lot, durability, so that you don't fall apart in week 8 of your training, but also you don't fall apart on mile 20 of race day. So let's build your week around that. So section number 1, the reality check, the non-negotiables. So let's define your reality. And I'm a big believer, and I say this all the time to people, make running fit into your life, not life fit into your running. If you try and do it that way round, it will fall apart. Don't try and do, a 2.5 hour run on a Wednesday because you saw some YouTuber doing it. or some elite athlete doing it. If you've got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and then you've got to get the kids ready for school and get to work and do all of that stuff, it's just not going to work for you. Okay. So before we even talk about paces and zones, we start with your life. Ask yourself this: how many hours can I honestly give running and strength, very important, each week? Most weeks, without my family hating me, without my boss firing me. You need to ask yourself that question. Think about, when are my predictable windows? Is it early morning? Is it lunchtimes? That was my favorite. Working from home, I used to block out lunch an hour and 10 minutes. So I'd have a 5 minute to quickly get ready, 5 minutes to get changed afterwards. Grab a bit of lunch, eat it at my desk if I needed to. But I would give myself around 55 to 60 minutes of running at lunchtime. Or is it evenings? What can you do on the weekends? And we'll talk about that later in the video. But what's my current weekly volume? Not what's the fantasy version? The average of the last 4 to 6 weeks. Most time poor people that I coach end up with something like 4 to 5 runs per week, 6 if you are super vigilant with exactly what you're doing with your diary. You are being really honest with your time. You might have to sacrifice a couple of things, but we're not talking about sacrificing time with the family. We're talking about sacrificing maybe some time that you scroll on your phone in the mornings or in the evenings. Can you do 1 or 2 strength sessions of up to 30 minutes? 40 minutes maximum. I say all the time, if you've been in the gym for more than 40 minutes as a runner, you've been in there too long. You are going to be adding more fatigue than you need to. So that's all you need. 1 or 2 strength sessions a week is enough. We are talking about a total time of around 6 to 10 hours a week in that peak marathon phase. So if you've been doing, let's say you've been doing 25 miles a week, we're not jumping up to 70 miles a week. We're going to progress your volume sensibly, and we're going to spread the load across the whole week, not just making the long run monstrous. And here's something that you can forget about is the 10% per week rule, and forget about the heroic 25-mile Sunday slog. You are a parent, not a full-time athlete, and that 10% rule is bollocks, quite honestly. And I've talked about that in another video. That's for another time. Anyway, section number 2. So the core weekly structure, the time poor parent, that sub-3 week. What does it look like? Here is the skeleton that I will use time and time again with parents who want to run a sub-3, with people who are so busy, they've got all of this stuff going on. We will tweak days to fit your life, but the principles will stay the same. Generally, Mondays, I like to keep them pretty short and sweet if we do anything at all. The reason I like that is because you've probably got that Monday anxiety of going back to work. The inbox is exploding with the 400 emails that whoever it is has sent you over the weekend. You've got stuff to do. Just focus on getting that day sorted. Maybe we do our first strength session of the week of around about 30 minutes and maybe an optional 30 to 40 minute shakeout recovery run after we've done the long run over the weekend. But otherwise, keep Mondays pretty straightforward, stress-free in terms of your running. Just focus on getting yourself set up for the working week. Make that a day where you are absolutely hammering your work so that you can focus on having that lunchtime to do your runs, or finishing work at a sensible time. Tuesday, this will generally be a quality session, the first quality session of the week. The reason I like this is because we have had an easier, physiologically easier Monday, so that it should be the day where you are feeling the freshest. This is the day where you are going to get the most quality out of your quality session. So do things like your harder intervals, your shorter stuff, the speed work, the actual stuff where we're talking about running probably a lot faster than the marathon pace that we're going to try and hold of 6:52 per mile or 4:15 per kilometre. Wednesday, this is going to be another easy day. 60, 90 minutes if you can do a little bit more. Perhaps you could do a double. Could you run to work and then run home nice and chilled, chuck a few strides in, but otherwise Tuesday is an easy day. Thursday, this is going to be probably another easy day. Another easy run, maybe a little bit more higher into the top end of what we want to call zone 2. Maybe you want to cross train, maybe some cycling or elliptical work. Whatever it is, it's going to be another pretty much easy day, getting that additional endurance volume. Friday, this is where I like to add a second session of the week, quality session. And the reason I like to add it on a Friday is because, look, if you're watching this, you're probably getting a little bit older now and you need a bit more time to recover. Back when I was in my 30s, I would do Tuesday and Thursday would typically be my 2 quality days. So I would do Tuesday hard, Wednesday easy, Thursday hard again. Hard being a speed work quality type session. But I tend to find that giving myself that additional day makes Friday a lot easier. I get better quality out of the work that I do. I will generally do something that's a bit more longer intervals, lower on the intensity, that sort of tempo, perhaps some threshold type, steady state sort of stuff. But I'm a lot fresher for it than if I did it on the Thursday. I might still be feeling a little bit fatigued from a Tuesday session. So Friday tends to be my next bit of speed work. Saturday, easy run or park run. If I do a park run, then we'll do Friday as an easy day. But Saturday, easy run, an hour, 90 minutes, whatever it might be, but keep it easy. And then finally, Sunday, I will generally give as the long run day. And this will depend on the phase that we're in, but I might give that long run with marathon pace dotted into it, or I won't. Generally, the closer we get to marathon, the actual marathon race that we're doing, that's when I'll add in marathon pace intervals. For example, you might get an 18-mile long run where you'll do half a mile at marathon pace, half a mile at easy pace, and alternate it. And then the closer we get to marathon day, you might go up to 21, 22-mile long run, and within that, you'll have 3 to 5K times 3, 4, 5, whatever it might be, at marathon pace. So that keeps our easy, hard, easy rhythm. A big coaching principle of mine, a big training principle of mine is never stacking 2 truly hard days in a row. You've got to have that recovery. Recovery is where we adapt. Rest is where adaptation happens. It does not happen during training. Training is the stimulus. Recovery is where adaptation happens. So this is crucial, especially when you're already under life stress, because our bodies don't know the difference between stress, whether it's mental stress, physical stress, work stress, kid stress, family stress. It doesn't know the difference. So we've got to try and break things up within our run training. So let's zoom in on what that looks like in different phases of that Sub-3 build. So phase 1, this is the build phase. We are building our engine here. In this foundational phase, goal number 1 here is building our durability. We are building up our volume to a realistic peak of maybe that 7-8 hours a week. Call it 50 to 60 miles a week. As a sub-3 runner, you're going to be running a little bit quicker. So, than somebody who's training for like a sub-4 or sub-5, for example. So you're probably going to build up to something like 50 to 60 miles a week. That's a really good place to be in. I've run plenty of sub-3 marathons on 50 to 60 miles a week, even peak weeks. So we're going to lock in that weekly structure. We are going to get our strength work consistent. Not perfect, but consistent. If you can do one session a week, do one session a week and do it. If you can do 2 sessions a week, great. Do those 2 sessions, but make sure you are doing them. And keep it simple as well. Don't change it about every week. Even just doing some bilateral work like squats and remaining deadlifts, for example, alongside some single leg stuff like lunges and calf raises. Great starting point. And then we can get a little bit more specific around that sort of stuff with some of the accessory type work. But that is a really great place to start. Some of the key ingredients in this early phase. Back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, we thought that base building was just doing a bunch of easy miles. And whilst that is important, we also need to be building our base by starting the process of training our neuromuscular side of things, getting our brain, telling our body that it can run a little bit faster than it thinks it can, to start conditioning some of the connective tissues like our tendons and the fascia, getting our muscles primed so that when we start going into the next phase, where we're going to do longer intervals, we've not just done plenty of easy running, we've also done some really short, sharp, hard stuff. And the sort of stuff that I give, so one key quality session per week, really early in a phase, I will, after we've done a couple of weeks of purely easy running, I'll start adding strides in. Then I'll start adding in some very short hill repetitions, like 20 to 30 seconds times 10, 12, 15. Then the next week we'll make it 60 seconds. And then the week after that, we'll do 90 seconds. So we're keeping it very short, neuromuscular, very hard running. It's less about how high can you get your heart rate or what pace you're running at. It's about really focusing on your form and building yourself into that, building that running specific strength. I will give you a long run. You will definitely be doing the long run. Generally, I will say, in fact, I was talking to an athlete today where we are doing the London Marathon. It's December right now, and she's up to 12 to 14 miles for a long run. She will stick at that for a little while now until we start getting closer to the marathon itself. Everything else will be genuinely easy, conversational. I don't really give a shit about zones, if I'm perfectly honest with you. They are arbitrary. Yes, if you get tested in a lab, you can get some very specific data. But ultimately, time and time again, we are reminded by the studies that if you just go out there and if it genuinely feels easy, you genuinely could have a conversation, you could genuinely run for hours at that pace, you're in the right place. And easy is relative. Like we were talking about earlier, Tuesday being a hard session, that Wednesday easy one might feel a little bit sluggish. So keep it really easy. Don't worry about what the pace is. If it's a 10-minute mile, it's a 10-minute mile. It really doesn't matter. All your body knows is how easy is this. And I get that with my running all the time. I'm a 250 marathoner. I will sometimes be flying along at 4:30 km pace or 7:30 minute mile pace, and no problem at all. And then another day it's 10-minute mile pace, and I'm struggling. So keep it easy. So an example week in this phase, Monday is going to be that either day off or probably more likely something like 30 minutes strength work, just to get the week started. Tuesday, you're going to be doing a harder session. Wednesday, you are going to be doing just an easy run, 45, 60-minute lunchtime run. Get out there, get your easy run done, get that volume built up. Thursday, we're going to do the same. We're going to take it easy. You're probably going to feel a little bit fresher than you did on Wednesday. Friday, you're going to do a short strength session again, and you are going to do another easy run. Get yourself ready for... No, you're not going to do an easy run. You are going to do some quality work, but because we're quite early on in the phase, it's probably just going to include some strides, like 6 by 10 to 20 second strides. Saturday, we're going to go easy again, 45, 60 minutes. And then Sunday, that's going to be a long run day, 90 to 120 minutes. Not so long that your family are going to hate you, but long enough to really start establishing that endurance and building up that aerobic capacity. So no fancy marathon pace yet. We're way too far out. We are just building the chassis so that you can actually absorb that harder work later. So phase 2, that specific marathon work starts coming in here. We are going to pretty much keep the same weekly shape, but we start to get more specific to Sub-3. Early on in this phase, we are going to start moving you out of those shorter intervals that we started at the start of the last phase, which we are now going to have built up to probably somewhere in the range of 3 to 5 minute reps. Pretty hard. We're going into that sort of VO2 max threshold type stuff, and now we're going to start elongating that, and we're going to start going into 8-10 minute repetitions at tempo. We're going to do 3 or 4 of those in a session. We are going to add in some flashes of marathon pace, probably a little bit of half marathon as well. That's going to be your key changes. And in those 6 weeks before the marathon, this is where we get really specific with your marathon pace. By this point, we should know what your ability is to be able to hold marathon pace or slightly faster. And you might do something like your Tuesday quality session might be something like 3 by 2 miles at marathon pace, and something that you can actually get done still in the space of about an hour or so. We're not talking about 3 by 2 miles at marathon pace in amongst a 2-hour run. We're talking about doing that within an hour. We've still got the long run to do on the weekend, which I'll tell you about in a second. You might do 4 by 2 kilometers or some 800 meters at slightly faster than your marathon pace. The rest of it stays easy. Friday, we might do some threshold work, just keeping ourselves sharp. We might do some flashes of hill strides, that kind of stuff as well. But then the long run, this is where we start to include controlled marathon pace blocks. Already mentioned it, something like half a mile on, half a mile off. So half a mile on at marathon pace or slightly faster, half a mile off. And we do that for, I've got a whole library of workouts that follow that sort of pattern. We've got a mile on, a mile off. We might also do things like, I'll start you off with 2 blocks of 10 minutes right at the start of your run. So we'll do 15 to 20 minutes of easy running at the start of your long run. We'll do a couple of tempo blocks to really just get the fatigue in your legs. Then we go into some easy running for a couple of miles, and then you'll do 20, 30 minutes or so at marathon pace on already tired legs, because we've done some harder stuff at the beginning. And again, durability, one of my favorite things at the moment, is really about building that ability to keep pushing hard at the end of a marathon when it gets hard, because it does. It's a marathon. They're not easy. That's what happens. So building that durability is a really big thing. Okay, and then the final phase is the taper. When I say that 6 weeks before the marathon, what I mean is that 6 weeks before we start to taper for the marathon. Just correcting myself from earlier. 2 weeks of taper, I tend to find, is the sweet spot. You see in the scientific literature, people saying 3 weeks. There's arguments for 2 weeks, even 10 days. Personally, 10 days is enough for me. I tend to find that people who do 3-week tapers go mental. They get the taper crazies, the marathon tantrums, the taper tantrums, marathon paranoia. They get paranoid that they're losing fitness because they're not running as much. I find that people lose sharpness by the time they get to race day. They've been tapering for so long that they're just like, I just feel like I've lost all of the good work. So one of the things that I really like to do is around about a 2-week taper. We do that final long run 2 weeks out, and then we have a little bit more of an aggressive taper. That week 2, -2 to -1, I drop the load roughly by around 30 to 40%. So you're still doing some pretty good mileage at that point. And then the week of the race, that's when I just drop it off a cliff. Really the whole purpose with a taper is to just make sure that you get to race day having removed all of that fatigue that we built up over a very long time. And then the bonus of the taper is that if we can then take a little bit more of that adaptation, remember, adaptation happens during recovery, that we get to race day having a little bit more of a bump in fitness, and it really makes that sub-3 attempt feel much easier because you are just so fit, so buzzing and ready to go with the carb load, all that sort of stuff. We are absolutely smashing it. So in race week itself, I might give you a very common session that I will give people is quite simply 30 minutes of running, 6 by 2 minutes at half marathon effort. That's it. Nothing crazy, just to keep the legs ticking over a little bit. We continue to do some strides throughout the week, but yeah, it'll be Tuesday. Your quality session will just be 30 minutes in total with 6 by 2 minutes dotted in there. And then we keep the same days that we run on, but it'll be Wednesday, 40 minutes, Thursday, 30 minutes, Friday, 20 minutes with a few strides. Take the Saturday off, Sunday, race day. Sub-3, bosh, done. Certainly with strength training, I get asked this a lot. Do you keep doing strength training? Yes. Personally, I prefer to do it until the week -1, and then the week of the race. I will give it to people, but it's literally one set of a couple of exercises just to keep yourself in touch with it. But the purpose is not to get stronger. It is not to do anything new. For God's sake, don't do anything new in race week. It is literally just to keep you in touch, keep your muscles firing, and that is it. Nothing then the rest of the week. Okay, so next section, which I think is quite an important one. It's a little bit boring. Don't turn it off, because this is actually something I talk to the people I coach. I talk about this stuff all the time, and it is, how do we fit all of this around the chaos of life? So let's get a little bit practical. 2026 okay? At 49 years of age. That I used to use, Woody alluded to it. If you are in charge of your own work diary, block some time off in your calendar. If you're like me, I literally, if it's not in my calendar, I won't do it. And if it is in my calendar, I will do it. I will protect that time. So if you are in charge of your own diary, get your Outlook calendar open or your Gmail calendar, whatever it is you use, and go, right, that is the time of day that I am going to do my run. Use lunchtime to do it. Great, and then if you have a desk job, use the time that you sat at your desk working to eat your lunch. Okay, I know that's not great practice, but if you really are struggling for time, then do it, okay? Number 2, if you are somebody who prefers to go out early, get your shit ready the night before so that when you come downstairs, hang your training gear, your t-shirt, your shorts, your tights, your running bra, your shoes, your socks, head torch because it's weather's crap and it's dark and all that sort of stuff. Put it on the edge of the sofa or draped over a chair, somewhere you are going to see it. I drape mine over the back of the chair next to the kettle so that when I get up in the morning, I go and get my coffee because that is the first thing that I do in the morning. And whilst the kettle's boiling, I will do a little bit of mobility work and then I'll get my kit on. I'll have my cup of coffee. I'll give it a little bit of time to get, the coffee doing what you want the coffee to do. I'll have a banana or a gel because I don't do fasted training. Don't do it. Don't do it. But yeah, get yourself ready the night before. It is amazing how much of a difference that makes. We alluded to it earlier. Can you commute to work if you are 3, 4, 5, 6 miles away, 10k away from your office? It is amazing how much that can make a difference. I now have my own workspace, but I used to run to my office. It was 3 miles away, and a half an hour, 25-minute jog there, jog back. Before you know it, you've got yourself 10k, 6 miles in a day without even really thinking about it. And then if you can do a lunch run as well, you've got yourself a really good day there. And because you've broken it up into chunks, you recover from it quite quickly. It's amazing how much that works. As long as you keep that commute run to work and then back home super duper easy. And obviously you've got a shower available as well because you don't want to annoy your co-workers. Then it is an absolute godsend doing that. Gives you just instant midweek volume without even really thinking about it. Do your kids cycle? Have they got bikes? Go out for a run with the kids. Like if you're worried about, eating into family time, take your kids with you. If you've got like a 3, 4, 5 mile loop, do that. Brilliant. An hour worth of them on the bike, out in the, I'm saying out in the sunshine, and I'm looking out the door and it's hissing it down right now. But yes, if your kids have got bikes, get them out on it. It's then not wasted time. You're there with the family doing something. It's amazing. I've got my treadmill here. Use it as a tool. It's not glamorous, but if you have a treadmill, access to one at your home, and you're lucky enough to be able to have that, fantastic. If not, you've got a gym, use it, particularly if you are struggling because of childcare. Oh my God, how good is that? If I know that I can't go out for a run because I've got the kids, then I've got the treadmill to jump on. Happy days. And like it is at the moment, weather's a nightmare. There's no excuses. Jump on the treadmill. Great tool. This next one is so important. Have a chat with your partner, your wife, your husband, your partner at home, whatever it is. Talk to them about it. Right. So, darling, I'm training for the London Marathon. This means on a Sunday morning, I am going to need to do X amount of running. And just get it booked in. So there's no surprises. There's no waking up on a Sunday morning going, oh, shit, sweetheart. Oh, forgot to tell you. 3-hour long run today. Bye. It just saves it. Just get their buy-in. And when you do this, it is amazing how the arguments between, oh, you're always out fucking running, and, oh, how is your training session today? It really, when I started doing that with my partner, my wife, our relationship changed because she knew what was going on. And then she started planning, well, okay, while you're out running, I'm going to do such and such. And there's things that she likes to do, like my wife likes WWE because why not at 49 years of age? Anyway, so that way your long run is protected. It's not random. It's not going to cause arguments. And do that for the rest of the week. Just Plan it out. Look, darling, I want to and I need to run. It is good for you. Look after yourself. You look after your family. That's the way I feel. When I don't look after myself, I can't look after my family as well because I'm going crazy or I don't feel great. So, and as a man whose wife has stage 4 cancer, I've got to look after myself. I've got to look after my kids and be there for her. So put yourself first and do that by having that conversation with your partner. Finally, you don't need a perfect week every single week. I talk about consistency. Consistency does not mean having this perfect graph on Strava. Go on my Strava, Nick Hancock. Just search my name, Nick Hancock, and you will see that my Strava graph is far from this perfect straight line that people talk about. Bullshit. Do what you can as best you can. If you miss the odd run because something has happened, just move on from it and do what you can. Okay. I've got to say it. If you're watching and you are thinking, Nick, this all sounds great, but my life is unique. I work shifts. I am on call. I have 15 kids. I hope you don't. My life is this unique level of chaos. Well, you are not alone. I have somebody who works on an oil rig. I have somebody who is a maxillofacial surgeon who is on call because she might get a call at any time that somebody's been in a car accident and she needs to go to A&E to operate on them. It's cool. Everybody's life has some level of chaos to it. You are not alone. If you want help mapping this framework into your actual week, your school runs, your shifts, your travel, all of that stuff, there is a link below somewhere where you can book a free consultation call with me or one of my fantastic coaches. There are 5 of us on my team at the time of recording. We are an established coaching business and we've all been there. We don't work with pro athletes. We work with people like you. So we'll look at your current training. We'll look at your time budget and we will tell you honestly whether Sub-3 or Sub-4, whatever your goal is, we will tell you if it's realistic and what would need to change to be able to achieve it. Right. Next one. Let's talk about fueling and recovery when you feel permanently knackered. So you can have that, that perfect training plan, but if you are underfueled, underslept, and you're living off fumes or your kids' leftovers, then your chances of a Sub-3 are going to tank well before you get to race day, well before we get into that second phase and the taper phase of training. So a few principles that I use with time poor parents like you is, number 1, fuel the hard days. Put fuel in the engine. Look, I've been talking to an athlete about this today. I have been brought up in the era where, we had the Atkins diet. Carbs, bad. Ugh, don't have sugar, don't have carbohydrates. They make you fat. They give you cancer. They fucking make your head explode. I get it. Even now, even with all of the knowledge that I've got, even with me telling people all the time to prioritize carbohydrates before and during your hard sessions and your long runs, I still struggle. So I get it because we've been hammered with this shit for years. But just very quickly, I was reading the other day that there was a study done where they had people eat exactly 2,000 calories a day, and one diet was 0 carbs, and the other diet included carbs, so it was a balanced diet. There was 0 change in weight across the 2 groups. They both stayed exactly the same. Also, for metabolism, because you hear about these fat-adapted keto runners who think they can run Sub-3 marathons on no carbohydrates. Fine, if you can, then you have a level of talent that if you actually fueled with carbs, you go even faster. But you are not fat-adapted because you don't eat carbohydrates. You are fat-adapted because you do plenty of easy running where we are not burning an exponential amount of carbohydrates. So on your harder sessions, that Tuesday and Friday session that I was talking about, don't be afraid to drop a gel at the end of your warm-up. That's what I do. 10, 20 minutes of warm-up, I will drop a gel in, and then I'll do my session. Sometimes I'll even take a second gel halfway through the reps. Get fuel in the engine. You wouldn't expect Lando Norris, who, he won the Formula 1 Grand Prix title this weekend, to have won the Formula Grand Prix if he didn't put any fucking fuel in his car. So put some fuel in your car. Get your carbohydrates on board. Your engine will run better, and definitely do that on your long run days as well. The recommendation, 60 to 90 grams of carbs per hour. And then by the time you get to race day, if you are doing that on a regular basis, you are going to not just be able to tolerate your carbohydrates, you're also going to absorb and use them. Okay, so get practicing, train that gut, and you will you'll find you'll just train better. And the better you train, the better you're then going to perform on race day. I should say, just to keep those easy days simple, you don't need to carb load for a 45-minute easy run. I am not a big fan of running fasted, especially for females. It can just fuck up your hormones, so don't do it. Guys can get away with it a little bit more, but even then, what's the point? Just eat something. Don't villainize food. You don't need to eat like an idiot, but please do focus on a balanced diet with plenty of protein, plenty of vegetables, and then those simpler, low fiber carbohydrates around your hard sessions and your long runs, so that you're not giving yourself gut upset. Hydration. This is actually a video I'm going to do for my athletes at the moment. Something I do with my athletes is I get them to do a feedback form every week, and I ask them, how has your hydration been? It's quite astonishing how many of us, myself included, I'm trying to be better, is not drinking more than 2 litres of water a day. The recommendations that you drink 8 glasses or 2 litres of water a day is aimed at people who are not endurance athletes. You're an endurance athlete. You need 2 litres of water a day, plus more, because of the sweat that you're going to let go of. Plus, you're going to breathe more moisture out. So actually, as an endurance athlete, you want to be thinking more like 2.5, 3, maybe even 3.5 litres a day. Probably no more than that. But keep a bottle near you. A little trick that I use. I run 6 times a week. I use a 500ml soft flask handheld bottle on every run that I do now. So 6, 7 runs a week that I do, 500 mils, that gives me 3 litres of water a day, 3 litres of water over the course of a week, just from drinking on my daily run. Whether that's a hard session or an easy session, I drink. So that's a really good cheat. Whilst I'm waiting for the kettle to boil and I'm doing my little mobility and getting my shirt on, I'll neck a glass of water. So I'm actually starting to get to myself, because I'm trying to be good with this stuff too. I'm actually getting myself now to more like 3 litres a day by the time I have my coffees and teas, which are included in the total, plus 1, sometimes 1.5, 2 of these, which is a litre, and then my handheld. Got myself a pretty good day of hydration. It's so important. Please make sure you drink it. Sleep. Look, with young kids particularly, it might not be perfect, but ask yourself, can you get to bed 30 minutes earlier most nights? Can you protect 1 or 2 nights a week where you're not scrolling in bed? Like, leave your phone somewhere else. What are you scrolling for? Recovery for parents like you and I, or busy people like you and I, is removing some of those silly things. It's not creating a spa day every day. All right, so get yourself your sleep. So just want to give you a little quick real world story here. Arbitrary numbers of, for a while now, this magical. We started working together a little while ago. I started working with Steve, full-time job. Very busy, travelling back and forth from Kent to Cambridge, which is a pig of a drive. Doing that quite a bit. Wasn't sleeping brilliantly. When we started, he was running 35 to 50 miles a week. He was following plans that he bought on Training Peaks, on the Training Peaks marketplace. So these are made by professional coaches. But he was a bit all over the place. He wasn't really doing strength work properly. He wasn't doing it very well. It was a little bit made up. It was all just a little bit meh. We didn't add loads of volume. He was already doing 35 to 50 miles a week. But the things I did do with him was we built him up to that peak of 60 miles a week was his longest week before he did his Sub-3 marathon, which I'll tell you the result in a minute. We added 2 short strength sessions of 30 minutes, focusing on some of the big compound lifts like squats, deadlifts, bench press, barbell rows. We still need a good upper body to support our legs. I gave him, a couple of good quality sessions per week that were very specific to where his weak areas were and what his goal was. We cleaned up some of his fueling. We got him taking a gel on some of those harder days. We got him building up his fueling for his long runs. He started averaging around 7.5 hours total training a week over the course of a training block, and he went from a 3:11 marathon to a 2:58 over one build. Now, your mileage may vary, literally. Your genetics, your background, your stress levels, all different, but the principle holds. Us time-poor parents, busy professionals, we don't need the perfect circumstances. We just need to be realistic, have a realistic plan, and just repeat it consistently and do the right things at the right time. So let's make this practical for you. Now, this is what I want you watching. I can see it. I can't, but you can see me. What I want you to do in the next 7 days is audit your life, right? I'm not talking about like doing a stock take on something. Just sit down and write, what are your non-negotiables? Like, what are your working hours? What school runs do you have to do? What bedtimes do you have to do? And then I want you to look at 4 to 5 realistic run slots plus at least 1, if not 2, strength training slots per week. Okay, that's what I want you to do. Those runs in the week, in that midweek, should be, let's say, no more than an hour. Doesn't need to be any more than an hour. 40 minutes to an hour is great. That's all I do. Great. And then on your weekends, maybe 90 to 2 hours. 90 minutes to 2 hours. Okay. Build that simple week. Something like I said earlier, Monday, either off or just that shorter strength training session. Tuesday, 45 to 60 minutes easy. Wednesday is going to be 45 to 60 minutes easy. Tuesday, you want that quality session. Make that your harder one where you're doing harder repetitions like 400 meter, 800 meters, that kind of stuff. Wednesday, easy. Thursday, easy. Friday, strength plus another quality session. Saturday, another just nice, easy run. And then Sunday, your long run. That's an example. You can switch the long run around on Saturday if that's easier for you. Commit to 4 weeks of that structure. Don't worry too much about having the perfect paces, the perfect sessions just yet. Just get the pattern in place. Just get that in place. Once that pattern is in place, it will start to feel normal. Then you can start layering in more specific marathon pace work. You can start dialing in your intensities. You can start looking at, that Wednesday midweek easy run. Could I make that 70 minutes next week? And then the week after, could I make it 75 minutes and build up a midweek long run? Or mid-long run, as I call it. And then finally, if you want help turning this into that full-on marathon build with your paces, progressions, and all of the, What do I do if my kid has a stomach bug the night before a key session? Fucking hell, have we all been there or what? That is what I do all day. That is what my team do all day. There is a link in the description to book that consultation call with us, and we will see where you are at, where you want to be. What races have you got coming up? We'll have a look at all that stuff with you, and let's talk about whether coaching with us can make some sense. And with that, thank you very much. See you in the next one.